As I get ready and more advanced in my financial life, I tend to now start asking myself, is everyone really struggling? Of course, it's something you think about and you see the stats and you start to look around, but you really actually start to see, like, hey, maybe everyone actually is struggling. Now, I'm sure there's some one off people who are actually having good financial habits, they're doing the right thing. There definitely are people out there. But the more I talk to people and the more I see and people who are more honest and truthful with me, the more I start to see like, hey, like, it's not actually what it seems out here. A lot of people are actually struggling. And it has a lot to do with the economy and the things we're doing, but it also has to do a bit with, spending habits and financial reports and stuff from people as well. And that's why I've learned now that I have to really stop comparing myself to my friends or even thinking about it because everybody has their own journey and everybody's struggling in their own way. And you can't really compare yourself to someone, even people who are like older or younger to you, because there's always going to be someone out there, older or younger, who has more money than you or who has less money than you. And their circumstances are just different, and at times when we see someone else doing a lot better or doing a lot worse, we could tend to envy the person who's doing better than us, and we could tend to feel bad for the person who's doing worse than us. However, though, I feel like now all you can really do is focus on what you can do and fix your situation because everybody has their own path and their own time frame, and we've all made different choices and mistakes, and we have to deal with the consequences that come with it. And so it just makes me think a bit about what goes on and what happens. And I have seen it a lot recently, especially with people who are definitely older than me. I see people who are older than me who definitely are living a great life. They got their finances in check. uh they're not really in any debt and stuff like that, but I've also seen older people who are in debt and do have bills to pay and are struggling a bit. I was doing this catering food service with my church this weekend, and we ended up placing this order, and it was supposed to be paid in advance, but it ended up not getting paid. So I went to go pick it up, and when I went to go pick it up, they told me to pay the bill, the people, the food service, and I was like, oh, like I didn't know I was paying for this, so it was a shock a bit, and it was like over $300 of food, but I ended up paying for it, and I ended up talking to my people at my church, asking them like, hey, like, is this supposed to be mine? And they were like, no, you weren't supposed to pay for that. That's not yours. So they ended up reimbursing me. But it was funny to think, like say anyone else was in that position that I was in, to have to pay this food order, even though it wasn't supposed to be paid by me. Like one, who would have actually done it, and then two, who would have actually had the money to do it? That's all I kept thinking about. Of course, like it sucked to have to pay that money right then and there, but also it was like, man, like I'm glad I even have the access to even be able to pay this money right here and there. Because a year or 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to say the same. And I really just thought about that. Like I even had this, access to do this, and I ended up talking to some other people about it. And some people said like, "Oh, like what you did was a great thing," because they told me they wouldn't have been able to do it. They wouldn't have had the funds to be able to pay it right then and there, like how I did. And so I think about that as a lot too. Like a lot of people really, are struggling and don't really have the exact type of financial stability that a lot of people are trying to impose. And and I get it because it's not easy out here. Definitely very hard. But it just makes me think too, like, man, like people really are struggling out here, and me too. Like I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm working on it as much as I can, and I definitely know I'm gonna get there. But I still, have access to some type of money where I can make a small purchase like that and still be okay and not really worry too much about it. And it just is a crazy reality to me. And it makes me realize like why, there's no point in just comparing yourself and doing different things because there's always going to be someone with better financial stability and someone worse. And I just need to focus on what I can do with myself and, really get to the next level personally for me because that's really all it takes for me. I'm not really trying to impress others and show people how rich I am, stuff like that, or how much money I'm making, all this and that. Like I don't really care for that, you know. None of that really matters towards me. All that really matters for me is really just doing what I can on a daily basis having good habits, taking care of my body, making sure my family's good, and just overall being a good person and experiencing life, having adventures, having you know, memories and things to share with each other, and making a genuine connection with family and friends and people. And for me, that's a great part of life. And so money is definitely important, and it's definitely something that can be a lot easier if you have it and can make your life easier, but it's not necessarily the ultimate happiness. And, it's something that I've learned a lot more as I tend to get further and further down this hole in knowledge of finance and just seeing the different things that people are doing and what we're getting towards. So I don't know. I just want to keep the train going, keep moving, keep doing the right things, and seeing what it'll take me because life always has a way of showing you. And so, I was thinking about this earlier because my car is getting up there in miles. My car is almost at 200,000 miles. And so I was like, man, like my car could end up being its last year this year in 2026 before it breaks down completely and shut down. So I'm starting to look at other cars when the time is right. My car shuts down. And I was looking at this car that someone was selling online today, and it was a Cadillac Escalade, and it had 271,000 miles on it. And I was like, man, that's a lot of miles for a Cadillac Escalade to still be selling it. But it also made me think too, like, man, that Cadillac Escalade was able to go to 271,000 miles, which is insane to me. I wouldn't think a car like that would be able to go that long. So it kind of made me think, like, man, like, what if my car can go that long to 271,000 miles? Like, that would be great. So I just gotta take care of it, make sure I'm getting its checkups and oil changes, and hopefully my car can get that long too. Because I want to pay off my car this year. So if I can have a paid off car, for a good 2 years max, like that would be really good for me, and it'd give me more time to not focus on buying a new car, just taking care of the car that I have now, and then getting towards other stuff. But we'll see when the time comes. I'm not too worried about it right now, but I do want to start looking just in case my car does decide it wants to shut down and you know break apart because you just never know anymore. But I am definitely planning on still keeping it maintained for a bit, making sure I'm getting the right pieces and parts for it. But eventually, when it's its time, and all I can do is just prepare early. So when it does happen, I'm not sitting here confused about what my next step is. I already know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it. So I definitely want to see where it takes me. But I thank you guys for watching this video. If you had stayed this far, definitely don't compare yourself to your friends because that can be a huge thing. And you just gotta focus on yourself. And if you agree with me, definitely like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.